Hello, welcome back to the Undrafted podcast with your host here, Joshua Erdman, and my co-host, as always, Matty Ice Arnold. Last week it came to you. We talked a little draft, one of our favorite things of the year. We were very excited about. That's still on the horizon, but right smack front and center now, we are in March Madness weekend. We are approaching it here. It is March 18th. Tomorrow, the tournament officially kicks off. The first four had their first two games last night. So we are off and running. Matt, this is an amazing weekend, one of the most wonderful times of the year. I think for sports fans, especially for myself, the tournament, man, you just can't beat it. It's absolutely phenomenal. And so obviously that's what our show's going to be centered around here today. And a lot of our content's going to be based around, right? So welcome in again. Glad to have you here as my co-host for another episode. Really excited to talk about March Madness, kind of dive into it. Let's talk about it, just to start, Matt, just from the general perspective. Go ahead and just share some general thoughts and give me that final four. Who are you taking this year?
The general well, and it's we're gonna be a pretty good it's gonna be a pretty darn good tournament. I mean, I don't think we're gonna see nearly as many Cinderellas. There might be a few that slip through the cracks like every year, but with the whole new NIL nonsense, it makes it a little bit tougher. So it could be a lot of chalk again, like it was last year. I think my highest number reaching the final eight is a 5 seed. So it's gonna be fairly chalk all the way up until the final four. I mean, like, but you look at the Michigan State's region. You got Hall of Fame coaches, teams loaded with national championships, and just about anybody in that top five could probably come out and represent the Final Four.
Yeah.
So, but I have my Final Four. I have Duke coming out, at Houston, Arizona, and Iowa State. I have Duke and Arizona playing for the title, and Arizona cutting down the nets.
Okay. Yeah, can't argue with that. Can't disagree with that. And I know we're into bracket pools together, so let's make a truce here. No updating our changing picks and any of our listeners who are also going to join those that pool. Same goes to you guys if you get a hold of this before noon on Thursday. But yeah, man, I can't disagree too much because I literally I've got three of the four, same thing. In my final four. I do kind of have when you go to the Elite Eight, a little bit sneakier of a pick. I do have a 7 seed actually in the St. Mary's Gales, making a little bit of a run, being a little bit of a Cinderella darling. Um, Battle tested team. I think always a tough team to go at, one of the best free throw shooting teams in the country. But it's a pick and it's a tough one. But it's March Madness for a reason, right? So we've got to call some things. Um, and I've got my fair share of upsets. I think one of the biggest conversations and one of the things to look forward to, general interest for this year and probably the next several years as well. Last year we saw four number ones get to the Final Four, right? But that was, I think, the third time in 40 years. So it doesn't happen that often. It's kind of an anomaly. And usually my principles, which I've gone against a little bit here this year, is to usually not pick more than two number ones. Usually to pick two number ones, but not more than two number ones, right? That's kind of my number. Stick to that. And, for no reason other than that, that I'm a coward, man. I just, like, I couldn't do it, like, I really did think about going a little crazier. Man, I'm in some big bracket pools as well through work with some big heavy incentives and things like that, so, um, I had to go with my gut here, and probably more of where I'm thinking if I'm trying to win, if I'm really because I love Arizona. Don't get me wrong, man. Like I love Arizona. I love the Wildcats. The last two times I picked Arizona to win it all, though, they went out early, right? They let me down. I just can't trust them, but I am going to trust them to get to the Final Four. Same as as yours. Duke, Arizona, Iowa State. You had Iowa State too, correct?
Yes, sir.
The only different one I have is I'm going to take Florida. Now, like that's the interesting thing, and I think the biggest takeaway for me when the bracket was revealed, right, is you talked about that East region and how loaded it is. It's insane. I think it's one of the most loaded regions of all time. And yes, as Spartan fans as we are, obviously it's not the draw we were looking for. But at the same time, not a Duke fan, but if I'm Duke, I'm absolutely irate because you're the number one overall seed. And like, how in the world did you get this bracket? Like, it doesn't make it to get UConn and St. John's is a 5. First off, they're a 4. So the fact that they're a strong 4. So the fact that they're a 5, you've got UConn, you've got I mean, the coaches, like you said, the gauntlet of coaches, the great coaches in this thing. South Florida was a team, while I was watching them in their conference championship game, were already a team I had my eyes on. I was saying, "Hey, this is a team I think can make an actual Cinderella run in this tournament." They end up in here. It's just ridiculous, this bracket. Like I said, I think it's one of the most loaded of all time. And how does Duke, the number 1 seed, get placed in that tournament or get placed in that bracket? Then I look at Florida, and I think Florida's horrible. They're not the Florida that was last year, right? They lost their point guard, and they lost. They're not the same team from beyond the arc. I mean, their 3 point. They relied on that three ball last year. In a lot of ways, what was his name? Walker. I can't remember exactly the something the third, but what's that?
Clayton,
Yeah,
Clayton the third.
Yeah, Walter Clayton III, and man, the dude was a sharpshooter, just he ran that offense. He's gone, so they've missed that three-point shooting. I think they're a little bit less of a team now. They're hot right now, and they're really good. But I was looking for someone to take like that was my bracket, and I went with St. Mary's a little bit, but I can't carry St. Mary's all the way to the Final Four. I kind of wanted to be that bold, but of course Houston could. I do think again, Houston typically a little overseeded in my opinion. We've seen that kind of play out year over year. Now, last year was their year when they made that run to the title game and came up short. I don't think they're going to do that 2 years in a row. But I can't believe in any of these other teams out of that. I just couldn't find another team that I could have enough belief in and conviction in to make that run when I wanted to. I wanted to find because usually that's what history tells us is there is going to be some like 4, 5, 6, seeded team that's probably going to get there, and that's the bracket to make it out of. But I can't pick any of those other teams in that bracket to make that run with enough confidence, so I just went with Florida just to be on the safe side, but it is interesting. I don't think we're gonna get 4 number 1s, even though I've got 3 of the 4, same as you. Or sorry, you have 2 and 2.
And two. Yep.
2 and 2, but yeah, man, but I think it's gonna be fun, I think it's gonna be interesting. I like Duke to win it all. I've said that mid-season. Something feels right about this Duke team. I think Boozer's special. They've got some injuries, but sounds like their center will be back. If he might miss the first game against Siena because they might just sit him just because they're gonna need him. And they didn't need these guys to win the ACC tournament. And, the guard, that's interesting on that end. Whether, he's gonna return, that one's more iffy, but it does sound like their center, likely should be good to go probably by that second round matchup. And I think Duke's still gonna have what it takes to win, but I love Arizona too. I think it's those 2 teams against the field, really. I I'm gonna be kinda surprised. I mean, we might go a little deeper, as far as, like, the teams that can win it. I mean, I think you look at probably Duke, Arizona, Michigan. I think Michigan, the loss of Chase on has really hurt them. You've seen them they're not blowing teams out anymore, and you've seen them get beat by Purdue. Ella Cadeau, even when he was at North Carolina, was a guy that was very consistent at times, could be great, from the point guard position, but so when he wasn't having his night, you'd see Dusty Matus bring in Chase on, and it made all the difference. They had that luxury. They don't have that anymore, and I think it's affected them, that spark off the bench. So, I might, go a little bit deeper as far as when I look at the tournament, I only really see the 1 and the 2 seeds, maybe about 7 teams with, like, a real realistic shot of winning this thing. But let me pose this question to you, Matt. Off the 1 or and 2 lines, so you can't take anything from the 1 or 2. If someone was to win this tournament that's not a 1 seed or a 2 seed, which team do you think would that be? 'Cause I don't know if I've seen
I
another
have
team really have a
two.
shot, but if you had to choose one, I mean, where are you looking?
I have two
Okay.
because I did put a 5 in the Elite 8. I had Vanderbilt is a sneaky one. They are playing great basketball right now. They took it to Florida. And then Michigan State, when they're clicking,
Can't
they
leave
they
it.
got they got 2 bigs. They can shoot free throws. They don't shoot the 3 nearly as well, but they can shoot free throws, which is big in a lot of games are win and loss at the free throw line. Just look at Memphis. A few years back against Kansas, they had the championship one and lost at the free throw line. A lot of games are won and lost by rebounds. Michigan State can get the offensive boards, and they're very sneaky to come out. I just couldn't pull the trigger because I could see a Cinderella Boozer run the same way Carmelo Anthony took Syracuse to the
Yeah,
national championship game as a freshman. Just he's that dominant.
that's very
I
true.
just think as a whole, Arizona's the complete team, in my opinion. but Boozer is very capable of carrying them all the way, which means I could see Michigan State getting past them because Kolar and Carson Cooper, who's grown up a lot since year 1 to year 4, could get Boozer into foul trouble. If they can get Boozer into foul trouble, Michigan State could probably spring that upset and upend either Vanderbilt or Houston in my with how my bracket is made up. So I would say Michigan State of the 2, more than likely, but I wouldn't be surprised about Vanderbilt because they just made Florida look they exposed Florida, I think. So
Yeah. No, it's a great point about Michigan State, and obviously that's what we're rooting for. But the thing with Sparty, it's like, absolutely, man, they can beat anybody. They could be a team that makes a run and gets to a championship game, wins it all, or they could get beat in the first round by North Dakota State, right? Like we know that the lack of shooting is a problem on the team. Great free throw shooting, but we're well rounded, right? Like we have the bigs that you mentioned. We also have some good guard play. Kurtang's really been stepping up, and I think he's gonna be huge. Like what you get out of him, with he's been getting more comfortable in his role, be able to provide us a little bit more shooting, a little bit more, effectiveness from beyond the arc. Um, so absolutely, like I think the we're one of the teams that, like, has the makeup to do it when maybe that list really doesn't run that long within the tournament. But I'm still just, and I don't for like, when I look at this team, I don't foresee this as being one of the better Michigan State teams, of the Tom Izzo era. Like, not even, I don't think it's even close to being one of the better squads that we've seen. And of course, only one has actually cut down the nets. But it doesn't mean, right? We've seen other teams where I kind of felt about them the same way, and then they made the Final Four. But that's just, that's the magic of Izzo here in March. Could we get there? For sure, but yeah, I'm not too optimistic, but it'll be a fun ride. The team that I'm gonna go with is actually the team that beat Vanderbilt in the SEC championship game, and that's Arkansas. Main reason is, well, one, they're hot, of course. You just went through your major conference tournament, and you're the champions. But Darius Aircuff Jr., right? Darius Aircuff Jr., he's a star. You talk about those darlings of the tournament. Who could you find them? You look at, like, guys like, in the past, like Kemba Walker and stuff like that. Who could also carry a team that maybe we weren't looking at, but we know is pretty good, a quality team. But Darius Aircuff Jr. is probably good. He's easily gonna be a top 5 pick, in the upcoming draft. He might be the 2nd pick, right, in that draft, some projections. So he's a terrific player. He's a guy who think could put a team on his back. You also have a very obviously experienced and proven coach in this tournament in Calipari. So from all those reasons, I don't really foresee anybody off the 1 or 2 line, honestly, winning this thing or really having much of a shot. But if there was a team that was gonna do it, it's because Darius Acuff just goes nuts. And, Calipari's experience, going through this so many times that he has with deep runs, is able to lead this team to a victory, with some of these bigger teams, Duke, Michigan, that we see, they are dealing with some injury concerns. So, maybe that does make that run for Arkansas possible. But yeah, man, super excited to take it in. And as I talked about, this is one of the most magical times of the year, one of the best times of the year. And so it always makes me think about when we come into this weekend, like, what are the greatest sports weekends of the year? And greatest times of the year for sports fans. And then, like I said, I kinda put it into a weekend because small sample size, right? We're not gonna go like, hey, the whole next 3 weeks of the whole tournament or anything like that, right? Or the entirety of the NFL playoffs or something like that, right? So it's more of, hey, maybe what is like a 4-day stretch, something like that, or even one single day, and things kind of around that weekend or that time frame really surround it because of all the hype that's around that one big game or that one big day, right? So for our top 5 this week, I want us to talk about, we're both gonna run through a list. We're both gonna share our own top 5 on what are, those top 5, we'll call them weekends of the year on the sports calendar. Matt, I guess I'll go first on this one. I'll run through my 5 here, and then we'll let you go and rattle off your 5 here. So, my number 5 weekend of the year when it comes to sports is Thanksgiving weekend. So, Thanksgiving weekend, a great time. Obviously, you've got the NFL games that are on Thanksgiving. You have the tradition with the family, you have your turkey dinners and all of that, and you're getting together, and you're putting the Lions game on and the Cowboys on, and now you've got another Thursday night game on. And Thanksgiving is not really one of my favorite holidays of the year per se, compared to some others, but I do really like that aspect of it. That you're getting some football, and of course, being Cowboys fans, and then You originally were living here in Michigan, I'm still here. We're not necessarily Lions fans, but it's still interesting, right? It always kinda, I take myself back a little bit. If, like, we were randomly in another state, right? Like, maybe if, like, in Montana, you just lived in Montana your whole life and you weren't, like, a Cowboys fan, um, I wonder how that feels all the time, right? It's Thanksgiving, like, it's just teams that are just they're just teams, right? But it's that big tradition, and then, around here, not for every state, right, you then have the high school playoffs starting on Friday and Saturday, so you get more, big time football that you get to take in, and then that weekend, as far as college football, is rivalry weekend. That's when you got Michigan, Ohio State, Auburn, Alabama, last games of the year that are really buying into conference championships and the NCAA playoff. So it's just jam-packed, it's super fun. It feels a lot like this weekend, to be honest, where, a lot of times I even go away, plan trips around that weekend 'cause, man, there's just so much on the line, and it's just, obviously you got time off usually, less time from work and things like that. So it's a really exciting weekend, with so much sports and so much, meaningful games to take in. So love Thanksgiving weekend. Number 4, this is one where I mentioned sometimes it's just a particular day, but there's a sometimes there's more to it. But for me, it's just simply Sunday at the Masters. There's very little that I like more that I could do. I look forward to that day. And of course, I'm keeping track Thursday through Saturday, what's going on, watching a little bit, but I love to get to Sunday. I plop in my recliner, man, and I just take it in for 7 hours straight usually. 7 hours straight. I usually do that, maybe 2, 3 times a year, usually for these majors in golf, but it's always the Masters. It's their Super Bowl. There's so much meaning there. The course is beautiful, the way it plays, the history. I look forward to it to such a large extent, and be able to sit there. Like I said, it is just a marathon of a day of watching golf. Um, I get the vast I mean, honestly, probably 50% of the golf I watch for the year is on that day. So something I always look forward to, love that. Number 3, sure, you could guess I'm sure it's gonna be on my list, I'm sure it's gonna be on your list. Our viewers probably could totally understand it. It is NFL draft weekend, especially Thursday night, that first round, there's nothing quite like it. It's definitely one of my favorite days of the year, but then it even continues, and I'm watching sparingly, and of course, I'm keeping an eye throughout day 2 and day 3, and it's changed up over the years, but man, NFL draft is an amazing time, and, you know I know for you, potentially, I'm sure to see here, the Super Bowl makes your list and where that compares to the draft, but I've always been that way, where more of a geek, like, I get a little more amped up for the draft than I even do the big game, um, but man, I just love all the complexities to it and just thinking about where everything could go and everything shapes up, um, but number 2, I am gonna get to some NFL playoff football, but not Super Bowl weekend, it's actually NFL divisional weekend. And it's because of the amount of games. Absolutely, I'm so stoked for that weekend because it's the first time, and it's changed over the years, right? We used to have 2 teams get a bye each conference, now it's just 1, but now you've got the best teams playing. You've got those wild card teams that maybe kind of backed into the playoffs that really weren't some of the best teams. They're probably weeded out, and so now you've got those big time matchups, right? And we've got those 4 big time matchups, 2 on each conference. Um, your Saturday and Sunday, man, you're just locked in. Don't get me wrong, the wild card weekend's great, and then you get conference championships, you get to Super Bowl and everything that's surrounding that. But I love the NFL divisional weekend just because you got 4 win or go home, all or nothing games. Absolutely enthralled with it. And my number 1, of course, is right now, beginning tomorrow, favorite time of the year, sports calendar or otherwise. I have taken off Thursday and Friday for March Madness my entire life. I First 2 PTO days I put in, usually do something special. I am wall to wall, 32 games over Thursday and Friday, 16 more over Saturday and Sunday. Um, be heading out of town this weekend, take it all in with some buddies, some good times. Um, get some R&R, some relaxation, just take in the tournament. Plenty of bets spread out there. But I just love the madness, man. I love the madness of it. I love the brackets. I love the way it brings in a community because all these people, I'm in a big work pool of people who don't even care about sports and they're talking about it and elsewhere, right? My daughter, my 5-year-old's picking brackets with me and has having fun with doing that. And just the upsets, just rooting for your teams, rooting for your brackets, living and dying with Michigan State, of course, right? And every game and see how that plays out. The selection Sunday even is always something I look forward to, and that was a lot of fun. I mean, not as much this year because getting thrown in that East bracket, getting put down to a 3 seed, that was a dagger. and they announced that right off the back, and immediately it was like, we got kicked in the frickin' nuts, but hey, that's part of it and could be more exciting. I think it's gonna be a wild time, a wild run again this year. Can't wait to take it all in. So that's my top 5. Matt, let's go ahead and hear yours, man.
All right, my number 5 is it's a big deal here in the state of Montana, but it's Brawl the Wild weekend when the Grizz and the Cats play. It's Montana Super Bowl every year. It's a blast to watch. Very expensive ticket to get. It's your friendliest people you're ever going to meet are in the state of Montana until that weekend where we just go after each other and stuff like that. And then once the clocks hit zero and then Montanans are back to being Montanans again after that. But we all come together for that weekend and house divided and stadium divided and it's just
Now
such a big deal in a small state like that, like this one
right, now,
that doesn't have anything.
does that game typically take place on rivalry weekend, the Saturday after Thanksgiving, or is that a different weekend?
I mean, it's whenever the last week of the season is.
So it's
It's always the
probably
last.
it's probably that Thanksgiving weekend then. So they play when Ohio State and
Yeah,
Michigan usually play, right?
yeah, it's yeah.
Okay. So we've got the same
And
number
then
5, just for different reasons, but we've got the same number 5, you know?
number 4 is I'm a big football guy, so it's week 1 of the NFL season. We go through the draft, we go through the free agency, we go through the mini camps, the OTAs, preseason games, but it's week 1, and you got the Thursday night game, you got the big Sunday night game, big Monday night games, like 3 of the biggest primetime games all season are on week 1. The defending Super Bowl champ playing whoever they happen to be playing, and then usually it's a team from one of the conference championship games playing on Sunday night, and then the other one playing on a Monday night. So I get really excited to see if those teams are having a hangover from the playoffs and the Super Bowl,
Yeah.
win or loss type of deal. And number 3 for me is it's the NFL draft weekend as a whole. I watch 1 through 7, even though I don't analyze day 3 nearly as much, but it's I still sit there and watch it religiously. I will dissect the scouting combine, and I don't watch the scouting combines from start to finish and not watch the NFL draft from start to finish. That's why I watch the scouting combine is to watch the NFL draft from start to finish. See how bad my mock draft ends up being after it's all said and done with. Um, or just really enjoy it. I've been enjoyed the draft since I was, she's oh Pete's early grade school age, probably. Once I figured it out, I've always sat down and watched the draft. And number 2 is going to be March Madness for the weekend first, just like the first 2 days, really. Um, the Thursday and Friday upsets and stuff like that. Seeing St. Peter's upset Kentucky type of games, or players like Jack Golke from Oakland U just
Yeah.
go off, and you get to see these names that you don't hear about until conference tournament week. Usually, it's the semifinals when you start hearing these names, and then they make that run to Cinderella, and they go play up against Duke. Or who heard of CJ McCollum until fifth number 15 seed Lehigh upset Duke. I mean, CJ McCollum, who Stephanie Curry on that tear in that first weekend for him. And number 1 is my favorite holiday. So it's not a national holiday. It's on the calendar as a holiday, but it's my favorite holiday, Super Bowl Sunday. Why we watch the games. It's why we watch the draft to get to this point. How intact are our predictions at that point of the year? And even if our teams don't make it, I mean, we're Cowboys fans. We haven't sniffed a conference championship game in over 30 years now. That's not what it's about. It's just you get to watch the best of the best. Whoever makes it to the Super Bowl deserves to be in the Super Bowl. Yeah, there's times where there is a bowl lot game, but your family comes together, great food is being made. It's just great times. Commercials, even though they're not nearly as good as they were. You still get excited to sit down and watch the commercials, something you don't normally do on weeks 1 through conference championship weekend, and it's a come together moment. It's not one of these Hallmark holidays, it's kinda one that just if you don't watch football all year, everyone watches the Super Bowl. And, yeah, I'm my 4 of my 5 are football related things, that's just a huge part of my life, it has been. I'm pretty sure I was listening to the Super Bowl when I was in the womb back in the day. I'm sure my dad had it going and my mom wasn't too far behind.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I've got 3 of my 5 kinda centered around football and, like, lists are pretty the same. I think 4 of the 5, right? And 2 in the exact same spot, are the same as well. So Super Bowl, yeah, but just missed the cuts. For me, um, I know it would take it a little different, but, I mean, definitely it's an exciting day for all the reasons that you said. Absolutely, 100% agree. Um it's just most of mine are a little bit more of the events that typically expand more than just the one day. Like I said, outside of the Masters for me, which is just such a tradition, and because it is just such a long experience too, it is kinda like that's what that Sunday is, and it's, um but yeah, and there's so many close calls too, right? So many other things too as I think about I could easily do a top 10 list. So many things getting excited for. Um that, my wife probably hates that there's so many big weekends where they're consumed by sports and times I take off to take it all in and the peace and quiet and really get to embrace it, man. I plan my vacations and my vacation time off and stuff around half of it around sports, but, that's what we do, right? So but yeah, I mean, here we are. We're in the midst of one of them. So I think my number 1, you're number 2, so obviously, very exciting times for both of us that we're in, and, love this part of the sports calendar too, because we've got a lot of stuff coming up, right? MLB opening days around the corner, then it's that NFL draft, playoffs for NHL and NBA. So man, spring is nearly here, and with that comes a lot of great stuff on the sports calendar. And then we head into summer where it's a little dry, but it's a good time right now, and we're gonna live in the moment. So, all right, Matt, we're gonna end today's show here with another version of Guess Who. And of course, the topic for today is gonna be March Madness, and it's going to be a player who really shined, right? It's one of those shining stars within a March Madness tournament. And as always, I'm gonna give you 3 clues to start. Can't get it from there, we'll go to the 4th, and then eventually we can go to the 5th. Um, this was kinda interesting because I didn't wanna make it too easy, but obviously not too hard either. It's certainly a player that you know of. Um, but also I do think it's gonna make you think a little bit, and based on the clues that I'm gonna give you here, I don't know. I don't know if something's gonna register with you where you're like, "Oh, yeah, it's this guy right away," because some of the stuff's specific, or you're just gonna have no clue. Um, so here we go. Let's rock and roll here. March Madness is the theme. Makes sense. Um, all right, first clue where I wanna go here. All right. So he's currently an assistant coach at his alma mater. Okay. He's the son of a national champion that was part of the undefeated Indiana squad back in the 70s under coach Bobby Knight, my guy. And he was drafted by the Charlotte Bobcats into the NBA. You got a smile on your face?
I already knew it.
Did you? I see, I
I
was
knew
wondering if
right
one of
off
those
the rip.
was specific enough or maybe you remembered that?
I think I got it after 2
Okay.
because I know the dad is Scott May, the father to Sean May.
There you go. Yeah, and that's where I was like, that's such a specific one, but, like, also, like, if you've never heard that, it could mean nothing, or it could kinda mean everything, right? Um, or it's
That's
something
fair,
maybe
yeah.
that you heard back in, 2004, 2005 when May was doing his thing, and it's been that long, and so maybe just kinda help trigger something, but yeah, absolutely right, man. Sean May is the answer, so great job, you knocked that one out of the park. Um, it's crazy, I always think back on that team and, like, one of my favorite teams of all time. Well, I mean, favorite team of all time that's not a Michigan State Spartan team was Raymond Felton, Shad McCants, Sean May, and, like, it's crazy now, like, I think it's just as you get older, like, but it seemed like back then, I think it's probably because 'cause we're in high school and, different times and different way you're living your life and all that stuff, but it felt like those seasons went on forever, right? Like, it seemed like that
It
team was
did.
together for like a decade, right? Like, they felt like they're one of these teams like you watch in the NBA, like, when you watch some of the Pistons teams we've loved, and you think about the Golden State Warriors, like, with Curry and Clay and Draymond, and, like, how long they've been together, it feels that same way with Felton and May and McCann. It's like, it felt like those guys were doing it for a long time, but it was, like, 2 years, and it was just the one national championship, but, like, that team was so iconic, and I knew everything about that team, and could still remember games and tell you those guys and, how special it was, and now, like, North Carolina's team this year, I mean, I can't name more than, like, 2 players off the top of my head just because, like, it's year over year, right? Like, it's just a revolving thing, and, but I love that team back then.
Wayne Ellington was the Wayne Ellington was the other player you forgot to mention.
Wayne
There was
Ellington
4 studs.
yeah, Wayne Ellington was a big one, and, man, I just, of course, Williams as the coach, so I mean, it was but I mean, what a
Beat that great Illinois team.
yeah,
That
they beat
Illinois team was they were
well,
dominant. That was a wild team that they had going on. They did any other year, it seemed like a team like that Illinois team should have won a national championship.
who was the
They kinda
guard?
sucked at both.
Who was the guard for Illinois that year?
They had 2 of them, 2 big ones. D. Brown was and Darren Williams were on that team.
There you go. Yeah, 'cause,
And then
so all
Luther
those guys
Head
were good pro. Yeah.
and then, so they had 3 good guards that
Yeah.
carried
Yeah.
that team all the way through.
They were an incredibly fun team to watch too, and just that I mean, I remember that final, North Carolina versus Illinois, just yeah, exactly, just stacked. What a NCAA championship game. North Carolina cuts down the nets. Um, yeah, I mean, one of the funnest, you know, tournaments and times to take in March Madness that I can remember. Um And, hope we're in store for another one, this year. I don't love some of these top teams in the tournament by any means, but like you said, um, anybody can do it. And Michigan State, we can beat anybody. And it's fun to could definitely cheer on some of these Cinderellas, and I'll be rooting for a lot of upsets. And we'll see how it all plays out. But we are here, man. It's go time. We got a couple more, which I'm really interested, actually. I wanna make this count. So SMU, Miami of Ohio, I absolutely thought Miami of Ohio deserved to be in the tourney. Going undefeated in the regular season means something regardless of your strength of schedule, right? If you're in the max, it's not like you're, I don't know, you're in some Division II conference or something like that. I mean, you wouldn't be eligible for the tourney, but I mean, it's the MAC still, and you went through all that, and they're saying something. There's so much pressure once you get to a certain point to stay undefeated, and I get they lost in the conference tourney game, but it's still such an impressive accomplishment. I don't think they should even had to go into the now they you could put them as like an 11 seed or a 10 seed, but if you wanna put an 11 seed, I don't think they should have to play in this play-in. But I'm as far as I can remember, outside of probably Michigan State, UCLA, which broke my heart in 2021, I usually don't really care too much for this first 4. I don't wish it exists. I think it's kind of ludicrous. Just keep it at 64. That's really when we care. We don't need to go 68. But obviously, outside of Michigan State, UCLA 2021, this is probably the most interested I am in a first 4 game. I wanna see Miami of Ohio go up against a larger conference team like an SMU. Let's see how this plays out. Um, so interesting game tonight. Little madness to take in there, and then, hey, man, we're off and running with a great one right off the back. TCU, Ohio State, let's go. Um, really excited for that one, and I think Thursday's slate is fire. I think it's a little bit more exciting than Friday. Now we'll see how the games turn out. But I think Thursday's slate really got loaded up with, like, the intrigue. So I'm ready for it. Now if you got any final comments you wanna make, Matt, but I'll sign off and say, happy March Madness, everyone, and, we'll talk again soon.
I'm with you on Miami, Ohio. I felt like they should have been the 4th, 10th seed comfortably in the tournament. Team number 60, what would it be? 64? I felt like they should have been team 64. The thing with Miami, Ohio is they won a lot of close games, which a lot of close games in March Madness. They learned how to lose. So They might benefit from this. They might make a sneaky run to the second weekend. Who knows?
Woo,
So
be crazy.
I was a little disappointed. I'm not. I can't say I'm surprised. I mean, they were in the top 25 for the back half of the season. I mean, you don't get in the top 25, stay in the top 25 if you're that bad of a team based off of the numerics that they were given. My oh, they don't deserve to be in. Like, why are they in the top 25? You know, there was not 4 or 5 teams. They're more like the I think they fluttered, I think 18th, 17th was the highest they got all season. But you can put a Auburn team that had the hardest strength of schedule in, but win literally 50% of their games. That was a Travis mockery to even consider Auburn in the tournament over a team like Miami.
I
You
don't think
know,
they ever
I mean,
were.
if Auburn would have won maybe 3 or 4 games, then the debate would have been able to hold a little bit more water. So Miami's deservingly to be in. It stinks that they are basically one of the last teams in, but now it's time to quiet those doubters and do what they need to do. And I think Miami could make a. I think they're going to win tonight, and they could easily, very easily,
Well, if they beat
be that
SMU, I
11
think
that beats a
they'll
6.
they'll certainly prove they belong if they beat SMU tonight, so but alright, let's see who gets that one shining moment.
All
You have a good one all, enjoy the tournament.
right, take care, buddy.